Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so sorry I can't be with you today. I am in Washington, D.C., as it is our last day of session, and we're going to be voting on a budget to make sure that the government stays funded. Let me begin by thanking the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. You know, we have had a relationship of working together on so many issues for a number of years, and most notably when I was in Sacramento, we worked on a lot of education issues together, and I look forward to that continuing while I'm in Washington, D.C. I've also always enjoyed the pancakes and politics breakfasts that I've had the opportunity to come and speak at. So I really appreciate this recognition now, and I am very interested and excited about the work that you're doing on leadership, because it is one of my favorite topics. You know, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and I grew up in two different parts of Los Angeles. I was born in the heart of South Central on 49th and Central Avenue. And then we moved to the Venice Fairfax area, and I grew up with two amazing parents. My father was a letter carrier, my mom was a homemaker, and we grew up in a family, and by the way, I have three brothers, no sisters, so that certainly helped prepare me for politics. But I grew up in a family where work was very valued, and honesty and commitment to each other, as well as an obligation to look out for other people. And I think that it was that foundation, those values, that really set the basis for me to get involved in politics. And what I remember most is my father, being a letter carrier, would wake up very early in the morning, and I would wake up early with him, and we would listen to the news, because TV wasn't on that early. But I grew up next to him, watching the news and watching the civil rights movement. And I remember those images. They're burned in your memory. The images of the lunch counter, the images of the water hoses, the dogs, Martin Luther King's speech on the March on Washington. Those were some of the first experiences I had as a child. I think I was about 10 years old. And that really led me to, one, questioning what was happening in our country, but it also made me feel like I had a responsibility, especially to all of those people who dedicated so much time, who risked their lives, and many who lost their lives, that I felt like I had an obligation to get involved. And so my first leadership experience was actually in middle school. Two things I did. I signed my mother up to be a precinct captain for Bobby Kennedy's presidential campaign. And I went and walked the precinct and volunteered at the campaign office. And I remember Rita Walters, who later joined the school board, but she was a parent activist. And she put me on a committee when I was in middle school where you had student representation. The big issue at that time was school integration. And so I was on the committee representing students. And that was where I got my first leadership experiences, and had a lot of other experiences when I was in high school. And what I really like about leading, and what I consider my style, and there's a lot of leadership styles, and I view my style as a servant leader. And when I think about being a servant leader, what is important is that you pay attention to the constituents that you are working with. You pay attention to the issues that are important. Later, as I went on to be a community organizer and an activist, and then being trained as an organizer, you know that if you're going to get people involved in policy, the best policy, the way policy is developed the best, is to have people who are the most affected involved in developing that policy. And so, working as an organizer and an activist, I eventually started Community Coalition, never thinking about running for office. I'm very honored that I have a position now in Congress through some very difficult times. I had difficult times in Sacramento, and it certainly has prepared me for what I'm going to be experiencing over these next few years in Washington, D.C. So I think that my favorite experiences as a leader, though, is really working with other people and training them to be leaders. So working on leadership development is one of the things that is most important to me. And that's consistent with my values, because I have a lifetime commitment to fighting for social and economic justice. And if you really believe that, then who comes after you is most important. So once again, I want to thank you for this recognition. I look forward to participating with the leadership program over time. Thanks for including me, and I look forward to seeing everybody in person next time. Thank you very much.